Misery Toadstool is a boss that few people will ever kill, and usually only after using exploits or tons of endgame loot and items to do so. And this isn't to blame or shame them. Misery Toadstool has a whopping 99,999 health, almost double that of his normal form, which has a health pool already considered obnoxious by most. On top of that doubled health, Misery also does about 50% more damage than his normal form too. And it doesn't get much better when you consider Toadstool's mechanics. Chopping down mushcaps is a chore to do, made worse by the fact Misery mushcaps take more chops to fell than normal. Although certain strategies like luring him away from the center and behind pawns makes this obstacle bearable, it's still annoying having to work your way around a boss constantly threatening 150 or more AoE damage while you slowly chip away at his nearly 6-figure health pool. To add to the misery, just being able to start the fight is quite a struggle. You need to acquire a canary, which means you need a pumpkin for a scarecrow, and unless you're playing during Hollow Nights, that means farming for it. Even with a properly maintained farm, because pumpkins are so rare, even in their preferred season, you can end up planting dozens of seeds and have not a single pumpkin. To give specifics, pumpkins have about a 5% chance to appear with each random seed planted. So on average, in order to get one pumpkin, you need to plant 20 seeds. Even after you acquire the pumpkin and get the canary, then you have to make a birdcage to put into the caves and wait on average a full day for the canary to poison. Then you can finally find Toadstool in one of his 3 spawners to create Misery Toadstool. That's a lot of steps and luck just to fight one of the most annoying bosses with some extremely lackluster loot. Only a weirdo with no life looking to prove something to himself would care to rush this boss in the first autumn. So anyways, here's me rushing Misery Toadstool in the first autumn. Our character choice is going to be Woodie. No, not just because I only play him, but because he actually offers the most varied and unique set of strategies for dealing with Toadstool. There are 3 main resources we can utilize to take down this oversized frog. First and most obvious is Lucy and Woodie himself. Lucy is an infinite durability axe that also is twice as efficient as a normal flint or gold axe. Woodie himself also has a much faster chopping animation compared to other characters. Normally, you'd struggle to chop down all the mushcaps Toadstool, and especially Misery Toadstool, spawns. However, Woodie can just barely chop down all the mushcaps before Toadstool goes to spawn again, if you play your cards right. The Weremoose is interesting, because he provides quite a good amount of DPS without the drawbacks using the usual weapons would. For example, the handbat will spoil if you don't drop it before a spore cloud pops, adding an extra complication to the fight. And Dark Swords, although providing more DPS without any spoilage, are expensive to use against Misery Toadstool because of his extremely high health pool. In order to kill him, you'd need at the very least 15 Dark Swords. That means using 15 living logs and a ludicrous 75 nightmare fuel. At the very least. The Weremoose with full mastery provides DPS comparable to Dark Swords, but at a fraction of the cost, with around 8 minutes of fight time, only requiring 3 monster meat and 2 cut grass. The Weremoose can also deal with Toadstool's mushcaps very quickly, being able to charge in them twice to fell them, even Misery's more sturdier variant. Finally, there's Treeguards. Although Treeguards in general are not Woodie specific, Woodie has the unique ability to quickly amass them so efficiently that no other character can compare. Treeguards are exceptional boss killers with their high health and damage, but come with a few caveats. 1. They won't fight bosses that can't chop a tree. This means their use in boss battles are limited to only a few specific ones. Luckily, Toadstool is one of the easiest to fulfill this condition with. 2. You have to grow the army. Treeguards will only spawn if an evergreen tree has reached the first maturity level, but that doesn't mean they're ready to fight quite yet. Treeguards have 3 stages of size: small, medium, and large. Large Treeguards boast over 3,500 health on top of almost 200 damage against mobs. Small Treeguards, by comparison, have roughly 2,000 health and do only 100 damage against mobs. So, in order to make the most use out of a Treeguard army, you'll have to wait a while for the trees to grow to the later stages. The plan is to combine all 3 of these strategies together to kill Misery Toadstool efficiently. That means I won't be gathering enough Treeguards to simply watch them kill Misery Toadstool. Not just because that's not an interesting fight, but also because it's unnecessarily expensive. A Treeguard idol costs 2 living logs, 3 cut grass, and 5 nightmare fuel. Although the cut grass is easy to come by, and living logs can be duplicated, the nightmare fuel serves as the main resource barrier for Treeguard idols. With our strategy set on a clear target, it's time to go hunting for some frog legs. Starting out, we'll do the usual. Pick twigs, flint, and grass for basic crafting, and gather some rocks while we're at it. The only real difference is that we're going to spend more time chasing birds to get more seeds for farming. We're as well going to kill spiders and destroy their nests for monster meat for idols and silk for a bird trap. The only natural resource we'll need here on out are reeds for papyrus to make the bird cage. A very important part of the equation that we would be foolish to miss out on and not collect as soon as possible. We're gonna stuff our faces with raw green caps in order to go insane. The reason why is that we're going to need quite a hefty amount of nightmare fuel, and although we will go to a better spot to farm them, we might as well get an early start. After following the cobblestone road, we find Pig King, which we'll use as a sort of base of operations to set up our farms and necessary materials. And you know what setting up a base means. A montage. Hit it. With our farm set up with as many seeds as we can manage to get our hands on, the only thing we can do now is wait and hope to get a pumpkin. While we wait, let's head into the caves and finally start gathering the materials necessary for those Treeguard idols I mentioned in the beginning, particularly nightmare fuel. Of course, from the ruins. The ruins is a hotbed of creatures that spawn nightmare fuel upon death, perhaps most infamous being shadow spelunkies. However, we aren't going to be farming spelunkies for fuel. The reason why is because although spelunkies can be quite numerous, they only have a 50% chance to drop 1 nightmare fuel. That's good, but nightmare creatures can also be quite numerous during the nightmare phase, and they will spawn 1 guaranteed fuel with a 50% chance for a second one. On top of this, they come from nightmare lights, a structure which has a very large insanity aura. If we stay near this structure while fighting nightmare creatures, we can summon even more from our natural insanity. First, we have to find the ruins, however. Luckily, the sinkhole we went into was right next to the muddy biome. It didn't take us long to find the lichen biome, and with it the ruins either. And if we weren't lucky enough, we immediately found the exact biome we wanted to find, Sacred. The reason why I want this Sacred biome in particular is because it's chock full of nightmare lights, which means lots of nightmare creatures and lots of insanity. Specifically, these set pieces, which house 4 nightmare lights. Although they have an assortment of clockworks within, we can easily dispatch them with the weremoose and then get to farming. Fucking derby. After our rampage, we managed to gather up a full stack of nightmare fuel, on top of the 10 or so fuel we gained before coming to the ruins. With our fuel requirement largely fulfilled, we now have just one hurdle to pass: living logs. Unfortunately, we were unable to find any totally normal trees while on the surface, which would have given us the necessary 2 living logs to create a tree guard idol. Rather than immediately heading up and hoping we run across one, we'll instead search for the blue mushroom forest, which will have the lunar grotto nearby. In the lunar grotto, we can find mush gnomes randomly spawning, neutral mobs which upon death will drop 1 to 2 living logs. We run across the bridge from muddy into blue mush fairly quickly, and now just have to wait for the mush gnomes to spawn for us to kill. The first one doesn't drop 2 living logs, so we'll have to wait a little bit longer before the second one spawns and we have our logs for the idol. While we head up to the surface, we'll quickly look for Toadstool on our way out. We find a spawner with no Toadstool and what I believe was rock lobster, so we can still look for the guaranteed spotter and money once we head back down. Now that we have the materials for a tree guard idol, we'll immediately put it to use and burn one near 2 evergreen trees. This means we'll be able to duplicate living logs for as many as we need for our tree guard army, which we'll be aiming to get 20, so 20 living logs, or 2 uses of a tree guard idol. When we return to our base, we're greeted by the lovely sight of not 1, but 2 pumpkins. Quickly we'll take one and make a scarecrow, set it down, and wait for a canary to fly down. The moment it does, we'll put it to sleep using the pan flute and drop a trap right under it. With the canary in hand, now we can go into the caves and put it in the bird cage. Well, it's too late now. We'll have to do something to make up for this setback. Our best bet is to look for the large swamp and get our reeds there. To save us time and effort looking, we'll quickly make a goose idol using our extra seeds and meat to map the mainland from the outside. Finally, almost 3 days after we acquired the canary, we gather the reeds necessary to make the papyrus for the birdcage. We'll gather up the last few pine cones for our army, totaling up to 21, and head into the caves. We set down the birdcage and immediately put the canary inside. We'll have to wait 6 to 14 minutes before the canary poisons, and we're able to fight Misery Toadstool. But wait, we haven't even found Toadstool. Fortunately, that's not a worry if you just get lucky. The muddy Toadstool spawner, and with it his cap, was right next to the stairs where we set down the canary. With almost all the pieces set in place, let's gather the last few living logs we need and finally plant those pine cones and craft the tree guard idols. Note how I plant the extra pine cone as physically close to Toadstool as possible. This makes it so the tree will be destroyed as soon as he spawns, rather than having to walk him into it and risking him aggroing onto the tree guards. After our trees have been planted and idols crafted, we'll drop the idols in the middle of the trees so they'll be ready at a moment's notice. We head back to the canary since that's the last part necessary to fight Toadstool at this point, and to my surprise, it had poisoned sooner than I expected. Filled with excitement at the prospect of finally being able to fight Misery Toadstool after almost 2 hours of playing, I make a grave mistake.
1, 2, 3, my baby don't mess around.
Oh no, no. Fuck. Okay, hold on. That's really bad. Really bad indeed it was. To put into perspective just how bad this mistake is, if I had waited for the second stage of the trees, then I would have nearly 23,000 health mobs, each doing 150 damage at my disposal. Because of my blunder, I have an army with 50% less damage and a third less of the health. I didn't prepare enough idols accordingly, and so potentially had just lost me the fight before it even started. But there's no use crying over it now. We made our bed, so it's time to sleep in it. The first roar indicates that Toadstool has dropped to a second phase, which means the tree guards have done around 30,000 health of damage. A good start, but not as good as I was hoping. We have to do this because huge. That's huge. I really need that because tree guards only got through phase 1. With Misery Toadstool's second roar, it signals that he's at roughly 40,000 health left and will start stomping, increasing the frequency as his health gets lower. Because we only have a couple idols left to use, we need to make sure we take advantage of our human form as much as possible. We'll put Misery to sleep and chop away at the trees with Lucy in our increased chopping speed. Oh my god. Oh, this is bad. Get him, Treeguard! Hell yeah. Oh, that's bad. Okay, yeah. Let me just... The last drawer Toadstool lets out means he's at 20,000 health. So close, yet so far. With only one idol left, we have just one chance at victory. We better make it count. Extremely close, but I need to eke out all the damage I can manage. As Misery gets lower and lower on health, stomping constantly, we can't seem to catch a break, as the bellows of a challenger echoes through the caves. Are you kidding me? That is catastrophic. Holy shit! Oh! Oh! Oh my god! What the fuck? That was scuffed as shit! Oh! Oh, sweet Lord Jesus in heaven. Whew. Finally, after a 20-minute fight, we did it. Despite our best efforts, we managed to kill Misery Toadstool with limited resources before winter, using the best of Woodie strategies all together. Note, this run was not perfect. Hell, it wasn't even good. With a better memory and superior routing, you can easily get a consistent Misery Toadstool kill before day 11. But considering how virtually no content of rushing Misery Toadstool exists in any capacity on YouTube, I thought I might as well make this video. If you noticed, I put more effort and care into the production quality compared to my S-tier Weremoose video. Although it might not have all come together too well, this was a fun experiment with editing that has really helped me improve my process. It also allowed me to experiment with more advanced techniques and comedic timing, in contrast to my uptight guide style of the S-tier Weremoose. If you like it, let me know. If not, also let me know. Hope you all have a good one. See you in the next video.